Hello, everyone. Darkeyes here, welcoming you back to the latest episode in my Space Engineers Survival series. Unlike some of my other episodes where I've done a lot of off screen type of work and a lot of things going on behind the scenes, this episode is starting fairly close to the end of the previous episode. That's for a couple of different reasons. For one reason, I've had a couple of comments from some of my subscribers that have said that they much prefer to actually see some of the things that I'm doing and have a little bit less of the behind the scenes work because they actually want to see what I'm doing, which is completely understandable, and I appreciate the input. Some of the other reasons, when I first logged into the game, and it has since stopped, but I had a number of random audio events going on. I presume that it's either a mod conflict or some sort of minor change that is being made to the game or has already been made to the game. In this corner of the base, I heard a beeping tone that was very similar to some of the random drop pods that we sometimes get. And that was quite unusual. I also would hear random grinding sounds in this particular part of my headquarters, even though nothing was being ground, either inside or outside. So, not really sure what was going on. I was also having an issue, which I put on the forum, and unfortunately no one was able to help me, but I was able to puzzle it out for myself. I had to shut down my mining rig that I built last episode, primarily because the cargo container was getting full. And I was a little bit puzzled as to why, when I have everything piped in, and then I even went so far as to put up a conveyor sorter that you can see there against the ceiling, set to drain all so that it would hasten the moving of ice and stone from the big cargo container outside at the drilling rig and stuff everything into the various and sundry things that I have running here inside the base. But the refinery was not drawing the stone, and I couldn't figure out why. So I had to shut the whole thing down because it was getting full. And as it turns out, when I went into my inventory and I looked for my conveyor sorter, what I was finding was the conveyor sorter was completely full of ice. And for whatever reason, it was prioritizing ice over stone. So none of the stone was moving through the system, and so the refinery was running dry. Now, as you can see, I've taken ice off of the whitelist, and so now we have stone flowing readily through the system. Once the stone is gone, then I'll go ahead and I'll put ice back on the whitelist, and then we'll turn the system back on. Now that the refinery is back in the swing of things, everything should be working out very well. And let me take a look. Yeah, the volume has gone down from 2.1 million to 1,600,000, and the stone is dropping even as we speak. So things seem to be moving along now, and I'm probably going to let the thing run for a little while before I let it run out, just to let it get caught up. I wanted to throw that little tidbit in there just in case any of my viewers happen to be having a similar problem. If you're using a conveyor sorter to try to whitelist or to try to move more than one type of material at a time, and you're having trouble getting things to work, take a look at what's in your conveyor sorter and see if it isn't jammed up with all one type of material, because that apparently can happen. The game can just randomly prioritize things. Not sure how that can be fixed other than taking things off the whitelist. Now, we have an armed transport victory, and this is one of the reasons why I'm in the process of building a new fighter. Before we do that, let me give you a brief tour of my new grinding ship. This is my new salvage vessel. I have not had a chance to use it yet, but there's an unknown signal over there, which I may go ahead and go out and find, except for the fact that this thing doesn't have a lot of flight time on the batteries. Since I just got done completing it, the batteries have not had a lot of time to recharge. Almost everything I have in the base should be recharged within a couple of hours since I have my hydrogen engine moving. But until then, I don't know if I'm willing to take this thing out. I've got 4 batteries on it. Actually, I think I have 6 batteries on it. Yeah, No, I think I have 4 batteries on it, so I should have a sufficient amount of flight time. I do have a single build and repair system on it. I don't really subscribe to using the build and repair system for salvaging as much as for building things, primarily because some of you may have noticed during my last video when I was bringing back some of the blue painted shell from the other salvage, I would occasionally stop whenever the build and repair system would grind away a block. For whatever reason, the disintegration of a block or the claiming of a block would cause the shell that I was carrying to stop in midair, and it was causing me more than a little bit of hazard when it came to flying. Now, this thing has more than sufficient lift to be able to get me off the ground, even, I think, when I'm fully loaded. And rather than have just one large cargo container, because it would take up the whole center of the thing and it would sit very high, I instead put in a large series of small cargo containers, and I'm going to let the system pretty much regulate itself unless I start to feel very, very unbalanced, in which case I may have to move things around. And then, of course, I have the obligatory connector at the back in order to get everything hooked up. I've got a few lights on it so that I can see what I'm doing, but hopefully it should have a sufficient amount of thrust to keep me in the air even when it's fully laden. And if not, I have a couple of spots. I could always double up on these upward thrusters and so forth if I'm willing to make the profile a little wider. And then, of course, I have the traditional grinders. But for right now, what I'm planning on doing is I need to build a new fighter craft because my last one got killed. So I need to build myself a new one. So we're going to go ahead and drop this in here. And I have steel plates, so why do I not have an armor block? And I think instead of doing my usual and putting the central block and the landing gear as I'm building the middle of the thing, I think this time I'm going to go more in a specific direction, which means, of course, I'm probably going to want to get rid of this whole thing and move it over. Now, I'm also sure that I am not using a color that I have set to ignore, so we are going to have to see. I'm very intrigued as to why this is not working correctly. There we go. Okay, so now, and I'm pretty sure that I have all of the components. Why is my door open? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've come to the conclusion that my base is haunted. If for no other reason than my controls are doing weird things. I'm hearing unusual noises in my base, and now I have equipment that is operating beyond my control. I gotta tell you, a little weirded out here. Blast doors. Close. Unless I have the front door set up to detect a small ship, and this counts. I didn't think I had it set out that far. But apparently I do. That might answer that question. All of this just to build a ship. Now, I want this to be somewhat more heavily armed and armored than my last outing. And that's primarily because I have managed to, thanks to the salvage that I have had in the last couple of episodes, as well as some of the Terminators that I've been managing to defeat, I have a pretty good number of missiles or rockets. I believe they're rockets. As you may have seen in my previous video, I actually did manage to equip my fighter. I had upscaled it a little bit to include some rocket pods. Now, I'm building all of this out of light armor because this is going to be more or less the base of the fighter, and as a result it's going to be protected by, I hope, everything else. And we put that in the wrong place. So I'm going to get rid of that one myself. I'm also going to be using a couple of new mods. I have installed a flat turbine mod, or a thruster mod, because I wanted to get an idea of different kinds of thrusters. Oh, there it is. It's the helicarrier thruster, and there are a number of different ones that are available, and so we're going to try some of these out, and we're going to see what we get. Some of these, the large ones, the extra large ones, are extremely huge, and they're the kind of things that you would only want to put on a capital ship of some kind. And these are the rebalanced version. Apparently the original creator of the mod made the engine somewhat overpowered, and that was one of the reasons why I had not used them originally, because I am trying to keep some measure of balance. It's one of the reasons why I'm not using the force field or the shield mods. And I'm taking a look at what we have going on, and I really should try to avoid walking and chewing gum at the same time. Now, my question is, do I want to try things a little different. That's a side thruster. That's basically a full thruster. That's a full extra large, large, full small. I don't know what to connect. Oh, that'll connect flat. Really? I wonder what the lift is on something like that. Herm. Well, we're just going to have to try this out. Now, let me see. I want to make sure that I leave enough room at the back. I have to have a connector. So we're going to try... I like redundancy. So we're going to try putting one there, and one there. And we'll see what we get that way. I also have a new cockpit mod, which is the VCZ Modular Cockpit A, which places LCDs in front of the pilot so that they can be set up using M-Master's LCD control script, which I'm still attempting to figure out to a lesser extent. I'm still not quite that good with it. Now, we're going to see what's going on here. I need to have, like I said, I need to have a connector. But I'm not, this is going to be a fighter craft, so it's not like I need a tremendous amount of cargo space or anything like that. So let's see what we have going on here. I'm also experimenting with yet another system to try to dampen the sound for my keyboard. I'm very happy with the quality of the sound that I've been getting from my microphone. However, the interaction between the keyboard, my fingers, and the desk have been a little worrisome. And I don't really know that I'm going to need any cargo space at all. I think I just need the connector to recharge the batteries on the thing. So, that being said, I am going to want a fairly good number of batteries, because I do want it to have sufficient power to run everything, and I don't know how much power these engines consume. So let's go ahead. We're going to start with 3. And now I think we're going to... Well, I think we're going to put all the guts up here behind the cockpit, because if any of this stuff gets... If the cockpit gets shot off to the point that I start to lose other things like gyroscopes and so forth, then I'm probably already dead anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. I don't really think I need an ore detector. This is not that kind of vessel. I'm going to put an antenna on it, just to say so. I don't think I'm going to need any programmable blocks or anything of that nature. What is it that I'm missing here? Oh, power cells, of course. Okay, let's run back in here. I do need to put an antenna on the base because I do not yet have one. I think we're good. So now I may be able to make the ship a little bit smaller than I had originally intended, or I may be able to put more armor on it because I don't need, fortunately for me, I don't need an oxygen generator on the cockpit in order to keep me alive. Let's go ahead and put that right there. And then we're going to, I think we're going to shave off. Oh no, I can't shave off because I have the thing set to weld only. So I gotta do this the old-fashioned way. Okay. Now I'm pretty sure that that provides enough lift to keep me in the air. Now the question is, what kind... Okay, these are a corner... Ooh, I don't want to do that. That'll get ground away the first time that I turn my build and repair back on. That's a corner tiny. This is an edge large, or an edge period. So that's for our upward thrust. This is going to be for our forward thrust. And again, I have no idea how much thrust these things provide. I did not bother to look at the specs. That's shame on me for doing that. I wonder though, I wanted to start laying out some heavy armor to protect both the ship and the wings. Oh, the cockpit opens, that's nice. So we're going to lay out some heavy armor. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the front of the cockpit with it to try to protect me. Heaven forbid that I should try to protect myself when I'm in combat. Try to keep my batteries from getting shot off. Now those are 3x3, so if I go out to there and out to there, and then we do that. That's light armor. Ooh, I hope I didn't make that mistake on that other piece. I may have. I'll have to take a look. Would you please do what I tell you? I have to confess that I'm not the best builder when it comes to making something attractive, as you can tell. Nope, I'd be willing to bet that those are light armor. Nope, those are light armor. Okay. So we come back up here. There we go. Now we go back to where I have all my armor blocks. And I have this set up, I'm not sure how other players do it. I have this set up in such a way that the blocks that I use most frequently are on the number 1 bar, and then everything else is in descending order, of course. I'm hoping that this thing is not going to be so heavy that it will never fly. And to be perfectly honest, I should probably... Well, we'll see. I'm curious as to how much lift I'm going to get out of these engines. If it turns out I'm not going to get enough, then the whole thing is a moot point. So we're going to see how this works. And all of this armor is primarily to protect the engine, protect that thruster. As with most fighter craft. This thing is going to be designed basically to fly straight at the enemy. Is that cockpit? Wow, I think that cockpit has a sensor on it to open and close automatically. Wow, I'm really eager to take a look at that. As with most fighters, this is designed to fly at the enemy and basically take them straight on. And now I'm debating on if I want to have more armor than this on the side of the thruster. I'm afraid that the fighter is going to turn into a flying brick at the rate I'm going anyway. So we're going to have to see about that. And I think that that other one went in sideways. Yep, that went in sideways. Come on. That's better. As I said, I fear that the thing is going to turn into a flying brick by the time I'm done anyway, which is a shame. I have seen some beautiful fighter craft and some beautiful ships in general on the workshop, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for anybody who can take a series of blocks and triangles and actually turn it into something attractive, because I obviously do not possess that skill. I do, however, have a couple of designs in my mind that I'm eager to try out, and then if it turns out that I can make them work, I'll post them on the workshop. One of them is for a spacecraft, so that one will obviously not be used here until such time as I get into space, which I have no idea when that is going to be. Now let's see. Alrighty, now we're going to put armor there. Armor there. Is that the right thingy? Yep, I think that's the right thingy. And then I think we have the inverted corner at this point. There we go. Now I do the other thing. Okay, there we are. One of the things that new players may find frustrating is trying to figure out the block rotation and try to figure out which blocks actually work with which blocks. And I can only say that a lot of it is a trial and error process. The game is not in many ways terribly intuitive, so sometimes it seems like things are going a little wonky. The auto rotate is not always the best system ever. And so you have to adapt and overcome, as with most things in life. Now, I don't think I could, wait a minute, let's see how we want to do this. I could do that, and then, as I said, this thing is going to be extremely heavy, and I'm hoping that the thrusters are up to the task. Because to me, that looks like a wing that I can stick some guns out of, and they look like they'd be fairly well protected. So I think, since I have this side going fairly well, I'm gonna have to improve my ramp a little bit. Actually, since I'm sitting here and I have lots of steel plates available. And yes, my OCD insists that I actually use the correct block. It isn't easy being green, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to say. So now we're going to... What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that block. And that block. And that block. And that block. And then I'm going to go looking for guns. Now the question is, do I want to put in... I think I can afford... I'll put in both a Gatling gun and a rocket pod. And the rocket pod loads from the front. Now those will not be terribly well protected. And this one, this is why I strongly recommend putting your tools on your hotbar in almost every number, because that way you have them more readily available. You don't have to keep switching around looking for a spot. I want to make sure that I have this thing facing the right way. One thing you don't want to do is have your rocket pod facing the wrong way. That is typically considered bad. And as we all know, bad is not good. As Huey Lewis is fond of saying, sometimes bad is bad. And I think I just put down the wrong blocks, because I think those are all supposed to be... No, these are going to be slopes. That's what we're doing. There we go. I have no idea, other than nearest and farthest, I have no idea how the system prioritizes. And is that supposed to be... Yeah, that's supposed to be sloping. I have no idea how the build and repair system prioritizes things that are going to be built. And I think those are going to be sloping as well. So that's the wrong thing. Okay, so we'll do that. And now I think I should be able to put down my gun. There we are. So I have all of the guts necessary to make it work. I have the gyroscope, I have the batteries, I have upward thrust, I have forward thrust. I don't have anything going side to side, and I don't have anything to stop with. But it's a reasonably good start, and I've been going at this for almost a half an hour. So I think I'm going to leave this here for now. I'm going to tinker around with this a little bit in my off time. I'm going to see about doing some testing to see how powerful the thrusters are. And is this thing out of steel plate now? Yeah, I don't see any steel plate in there. Well, when in doubt, run off another 1,000 steel plate. But I have no idea how powerful the thrusters are. It could be that 3 downward thrusters is too much. It could be that they are not enough. It could be that the 3 batteries that I put on are insufficient power. But as I said, we're going to tinker around with this a little bit and see how the thrust works and how much thrust I get out of it and so on and so forth. I'm going to, for my next episode, one of the things that I am going to do behind the scenes, once I get through all of this ice, I think I'm just actually going to drop another large cargo container. I may just go ahead and drop another large cargo container out here and then go ahead and weld it up, because not having enough cargo space is a pretty lame reason to not continue producing things. When you're holding up production because you don't have enough cargo space, then that's kind of silly. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drop that down, and I'm going to go ahead and weld all of this up because I'm outside my build and repair system. So I'll go ahead and I'll lay all of this out, and it's attached to the ground anyway, so it should be stable. But I'm going to go ahead and weld that up in the off time, and we'll see how much of this thing I can fill in here. And that will enable me to go ahead and move everything that's choking up the system back in the base. I'll take off the conveyor sorter because that's set up to go the wrong way. I'll put all of the ice and all of the stone back into this cargo container, which should free up my system in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and lay out a new interior for the base. The frustration has gotten to the point where I have just decided that I need to do more maintenance work, and so don't be shocked if the next time that we come back I have done a complete tear out and I have started relaying everything in here. Right now it's very organic, which means as things were needed I went ahead and I put them in where I had space, but now it's gotten to the point where it's just a point of frustration, and so now I need to make my cave bigger and then go from there. I appreciate the comments and all of the constructive criticism. I've received some pointers from some of my followers, and I very much appreciate that. As always, likes are appreciated and subscriptions doubly so. This is Darkgeyser. Thank you for watching.